Workplace, environment, health, and hygiene. Just because you work on a construction site does not mean that your workplace facilities cannot be clean and hygienic. In fact, it is a legal requirement to provide a workplace that has sufficient toilets, showers, change rooms, and eating areas that are clean and hygienic. The work environment must also have adequate lighting and ventilation, and workers must be protected from excessive noise and heat. We will discuss these in more detail in this video. Remember, having a clean and hygienic workplace will always contribute to the overall level of health and safety on your site. Lighting. Firstly, it is important to have adequate lighting provided in dark areas such as stairwells and basements. Insufficiently lit areas are dangerous areas. You can trip over unseen debris, fall through gaps in the floor, and walk into sharp objects like steel rods protruding from walls. All of these instances will leave you seriously injured or even permanently disabled. In plant and storage yards, surveys should be conducted to determine if the lights that are provided comply with the minimum requirements of the Occupational Health and Safety Act. Ventilation. Next, make sure the areas you are working in are suitably ventilated. Areas that contain toxic or poisonous fumes are very hazardous to one's health. Breathing in these fumes over time can cause serious harm to your lungs and health. In order to prevent this, extraction and exhaust systems must be installed in these hazardous areas that are not sufficiently ventilated. Common hazardous areas that require these systems would include where chemicals and adhesives are used, where welding is taking place, or where a petrol or diesel motor is running in a confined space or basement. The plant yard spray and sandblasting booth should be subjected to a survey to determine if the ventilation is adequate. Noise. Loud noise is another kind of hazard found on sites. Unacceptable levels of noise over long periods of time can lead to permanent hearing loss. A site that experiences these conditions must take all reasonable steps to reduce noise levels at the source. This is done by identifying the areas where noise levels exceed 85 dBs. Also, place signage requiring workers to wear appropriate hearing protection. Look out for these signs and adhere to them at all times to avoid any chance of permanent hearing loss. It is recommended to do noise surveys for the plant yard to determine the level of sound that workers are exposed to. It is also recommended that employers establish a baseline as part of a medical check for workers. Heat stress. In extreme climates, it is very important to make sure the correct measures are taken to prevent heat exhaustion in problematic areas such as steel deckwork and when the WBGT index reaches 30. In these climates, it is extremely important for there to be cold drinking water readily available to all workers. Being dehydrated can be harmful to your health, and extremely hot conditions make it very easy for you to get dehydrated without even knowing it. For this reason, it is important to make sure you are taking in adequate amounts of water during the course of the day. Heat stress can result in a lack of concentration, which can result in or contribute to a serious accident. In extreme cases, heat exhaustion can lead to a loss of consciousness and/or death. If you feel you are in danger of becoming dehydrated, take a moment to stop and drink some water before continuing your work. Ablutions. Construction sites must always have suitable facilities available to its workers, and it is important that these facilities are clean and maintained. The following are the legal requirements regarding facilities. There must be one toilet provided for every 30 employees, with toilet paper available at all times. There must be one shower available for every 15 employees. Soap must be made available for washing hands, as well as a means for drying hands. Separate changing areas and facilities must be provided for females. There must be adequate storage facilities provided in the change rooms. It is very important to keep all ablution facilities hygienically clean at all times. This is not what ablutions should look like. The consequences of having poorly maintained and unhygienic ablution facilities include increased exposure to diseases and germs, resulting in more absenteeism. This can slow the construction process, which in the long run costs more money. Eating and cooking facilities. Clean eating and cooking facilities must be provided on sites for all workers. Sites must provide a suitable, separate, weather-protected zone as an eating area. It is important that this area is separate from the changing area. Make sure there are an adequate amount of refuse bins with lids available in this area. Litter and rubbish are very unhygienic and can contribute to sickness and disease. Remember, it is the responsibility of all workers on site to dispose of refuse into the supplied bins. Should food be prepared and cooked on site, it is advisable that the local health department approve of the facilities. Pollution of environment. A pollution policy which is signed by the CEO must be published on site. Make sure that there are adequate measures in place to control dust that is generated on site. A good practice is to water the gravel roads on a daily basis. Ensure that empty cement pockets, plastic wrappings, bags, and packing material are correctly accumulated and disposed of in the correct manner. Also make sure that no oil, chemicals, or fuels such as petrol and diesel are discarded into stormwater drains. Only dispose of these in the correct manner and obtain a certificate from the service provider to confirm that they have been disposed of correctly. Hazardous chemicals. Hazardous chemicals are commonly found on construction sites. It is good to know the effects these can have, as well as understanding the correct way in which to handle these substances. If there are hazardous substances being used on site, such as diesel, oil, cement, thinners, paint, acids, and degreasers, it is essential that they are identified and recorded with a list of such made available. These substances must be stored safely with the segregation principles being applied at all times. Material Safety Data Sheets, or MSDS, indicating hazardous properties and emergency procedures in case of incident, must be on file and readily available. Following these simple guidelines will help you work towards a healthier, more hygienic work environment. This is a joint effort by both management and the workforce. As an employer or employee, many of these video topics covered here in this DVD will apply to your daily work. Be sure to view this DVD on a regular basis to ensure that safety on your site is maintained at the highest level. Remember, just watching this DVD will not save lives or stop injuries. It requires a follow-through and responsibility from everyone involved to practically execute the requirements mentioned both in this DVD as well as the Occupational Health and Safety Act and regulations. See to it that the simple requirements and recommendations covered in this DVD become the standard on your site.